Hello, my name is Pierre. This is my response video to week two's lecture or video lecture. I've been in healthcare since about 2015, 2016. I started out at a children's hospital. Now I'm at a regular hospital. When I first began in healthcare, I started out in materials management, which deals with logistics, supplies. There's a lot of moving parts in that, but I think that was my first real understanding of systems thinking, even though I wasn't aware of that at the time. When you're working with logistics, when you're working with supplying a hospital, there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. There's the regular flow of things, people placing their regular orders, and us filling those. But then you have other things that arise that can affect the system, such as if somebody needs an urgent or a stat order. Now we have to pull people to, go ahead and pick that and bring that over to the hospital, which slows down our picking time when we're picking those orders off of the shelf. If we have an issue with a supplier or manufacturer, that slows down us being able to get certain supplies, or we have to figure out other avenues to procure those supplies and then get it to the, appropriate parties, which again can affect the normal flow, that can affect the system. All of those things are individual systems, but they impact how we're able to deliver our supplies, which also impacts other things such as patient care. It may impact, a physician may be looking for a certain item and there's a delayed time, or he's not able to get it at all, and he might be in a situation where time is of the essence and now he has to figure out another avenue to go about providing care to his patient or whatever situation he might be in. So I feel like materials management again was a really good introduction to systems thinking, even though I was again not aware at the time that that's what it was. At this point, with what I'm doing in healthcare, I think that I get to see systems thinking from a different point of view. Um, I want to say, I'm trying to think of a good example. Excuse me if I keep saying I'm not used to doing these video introductions. I'm more of a writer. But I think a good example of how one thing can impact another is we use Epic, which I know another classmate mentioned them going live with Epic. We use that as well at our organization. And one thing we recently tried to do is when using telehealth, we want people to check themselves in when they do the telehealth, because when they go through the process versus registration staff doing it, it prompts more questionnaires, and there's just things that they see on their end that we're not able to, and things that they of course won't see if we do the process for them. So that decision was made for them to go ahead and do the telehealth check-in on their own. But something that we're running into is a lot of our patients are older, and while some of them really love being able to use things like my chart, doing everything online, doing the pre-check-in, you name it, questionnaires, all their documentation, a lot of people are not comfortable, they're not technologically savvy, and they're not able to do those things. So it kind of creates hiccups, and it's like we still have to compensate for them. So what has happened is, since we're having a lot of issues with people or patients checking in for their telehealths, we basically have been brought back to square one. So we're back to checking them in as registration staff because that process isn't working out. So it's interesting how a decision was made which impacted the system in one way. Long term, it did not work out. I don't know if that'd be considered a negative feedback loop, but it didn't work out in the long run. So now we're back to square one. We're back to the drawing board, trying to figure out another way to, go about either implementing that process, creating a whole different process, or if we're just going to go ahead and stay with what the original process was. There's a lot of things that happen throughout the day, again, with providing patient care, how we handle paperwork, the registration process, interactions with other staff, physicians, which again, we are all part of a system. And when a decision is made, it impacts different areas of the system. And another way that this has been, I guess, made aware is with transparency for management. When we, present to them, hey, we're having this issue, or they're checking in and we bring up concerns and stuff, a lot of times there's not a quick fix. And that is, again, because there's so many different moving parts, and you have to consider, because so many people, so many areas or components will be impacted by a decision, you have to bring other people into the loop so that, you get a more well-rounded view of what's going on. You can get other people's expertise, and you can just make a better, more well-informed decision where you can also, brainstorm, figure out what potential conflicts will be and how you can deal with those things. So that's my understanding and my experience with systems thinking, and hopefully this adequately answered the lecture.